the first Kinyan in the Memches Kinyanim is Talmud. The Talmud, and then it goes on to Bishmias Eisen, listening, Barichas Vasayim, speaking appropriately, the Binas Halev, etc. And the question is, what is this concept of Talmud? In other words, first of all, the obvious, striking question anyone who learns this Mishnah asks is, if you want to acquire Torah, you got to learn something. It's basic, it's obvious, it's pashut. What is the chiddush of the Mishnah that one of the 48 ways to acquire Torah is through Talmud? Talmud you can't learn Torah without learning. You can't acquire Torah without learning. It's davar pashut. Question number 1. Second question is, why does the Mishnah call it Talmud as opposed to calling it Bilimud? In other words, if I was telling you that it was necessary to learn first Seder, we're going to have a session of Limud HaTorah, right? We're going to learn Torah. We don't say the words Talmud. Now, colloquially, we now understand Talmud Torah to mean learning. But if you think grammatically, it would be more appropriate to say Limud HaTorah. So why does the Mishnah, when it's outlined, defining the midah, the mechanism of acquiring Torah, it says B'Talmud? It should say B'Limud. And the second question, in fact, answers the first. What's the chiddush of B'Talmud? Says the Maharal in his explanation of Pirkei Avos Derech Chaim, explains the Maharal, B'Talmud doesn't mean learning. The Talmud means sheyilmoid mirabo v'yisvok al chachmas. The first way, you're counting the list of ways to acquire Torah, Kinyanim Torah. So the first way you got to do is through learning, but not learning from yourself, from your own chachma, not self-investigation and analysis. Rather, says the Maharal, sheyilmod mirabo, having a Rebbe who's going to impart the knowledge and wisdom upon you, who's going to direct you al derech ha'emes, who's going to explain to you the appropriate understanding and way of Torah, that is the primary number one Kinyan way to acquire Torah. The Mishnah in Avos tells us Aseh L'Charav, and the Rambam is Masbir. What does it mean Aseh L'Charav? Perek Aleph Mishnah Vav. The Rambam is Masbir. Even if it's somebody who, you don't have somebody there who's able to be your Rebbe. All you have is a chavrusa. All you have is a friend. All you have is somebody there who knows a little bit more than you, not somebody who you would define as a Rab. Says the Rambam that you have to make that person into your Rebbe, your Malami. Because learning by yourself from your own knowledge, from your own understanding is not comparable, not similar. It is not anywhere close to learning from somebody else. Because learning by yourself is good, but when you learn from somebody else, it's clearer, it's more obvious, the answers are more spoken out, and therefore it's able to remain and last much longer. When you learn from another person, you're able to retain the information much greater. So we see that the number one reason, or the number one toeles in acquiring Torah through a Rebbe is not only that you now know the information, but it's long-term clarity and retention. There's a Meiridik, where Matisyahu Solomon points out an absolutely Meiridik, beautiful riff. The Gemara tells us that if somebody chas v'shalom kills b'shoigeg, they kill somebody else b'shoigeg, the halach is they have to go to a near miklat. And there's a famous Gemara that tells us that if somebody kills, then Talmud Shigola, Megalan Rabo Imo, that if a Talmud is Chas V'Sholom has to go into an ear miklat, so the Rebbe goes along with him. Why? Shneimar v'chai, that the person goes to the ear miklat in order to live. So how does he live? So you have to do for him that which is necessary for him to have life. And a Talmud who does not have a Rebbe to teach him is nechshav, is choshev k'meis. He's lacking fundamentally in his life. So the Memela Talmud Shagala Megalin Rabo Ima. That's the halacha in the Gemara. The Gemara continues. Amar Rabbi Zeira Mikan Shleishana Adam Ladam Jenu Hagan. Therefore, a person should be careful to not teach a student who is unfitting. In other words, should be careful not to have to go to Golos. So make sure that your Talmidim are proper, wonderful individuals. Yishrei Lev Talmidim and up the best standing citizens. And you won't have to worry about going into Golos. Azoi state the Gemara. Now the Rif, when he's quoting all of the halachas of Golos, it's a very, very, very short section in the Rif. He leaves the whole thing out. Because we know the Rif only quotes halachas that are halacha l'maaseh. He cuts down the Gemara into only the halacha l'maaseh sections of it, and everything else he omits. He leaves it out. Says the Nemuki Yosef that guess what? All of the halachas of Golos are halachas of Mashiach. They're not practical halachas for nowadays because we don't send people into Golos nowadays. We don't have Yerei Miklat nowadays. We're not all living in Eretz Yisrael nowadays. It's all halachas of Mashiach. It's all for future times. And therefore the Rif leaves out all of the halachas of Golos. However, here's the catch. The catch is the Rif quotes two halachas from this entire section of Eluhein HaGoylin. What two halachas does he quote? Says the Rif, the following two halachas. He's matik megemara, the halacha of Talmud Shegala Megalan Rabo Imo. That's halacha number one. Halacha number two, they shouldn't teach a Talmud Sheinu Haga. These two halachas he brings down. Why? I thought Golos was only halachas of the Mashiach. I thought all the halachas of Ari Miklat, the person who kills him Shegek, is not Nogea Bizman Hazeh. Obviously, the Rif is telling us a tremendous, tremendous chiddush. And then Yosef, in fact, speaks it out. That even though we don't have an Ir Miklat Bizman Hazeh, even though we don't have the halachas of Golos Bizman Hazeh, nonetheless, a person who is a Talmud Shegala, a Talmud who's not able to be with his Rebbe, is choshev k'meis. If he's not able to have limud Torah from his Rebbe, he's lacking in his essence of his life. So Memela, even Bizman Hazeh, that's a very practical halacha l'maisa dika halacha. And also, that a person shouldn't teach a Talmud Sheinu Haga is very practical negei halacha l'maisa. So even though we don't have the general concept of Golos, these are two halachas that we do have. Halacha l'maisa, says the Rif. Furthermore, says the Nemuki Yosef, a pellet gebart. Mamish mabel l'rayin, something that should wake us all up, but it's milsa the pshita. Says how come the Rav has to go into Golos with the Talmud? I understand a Talmud needs a Rebbe. The only way to acquire Torah, one of the memchas Kinyanim is Talmud, meaning with learning from a Rebbe. But guess what? The Ir Miklat has a Rebbe already there. There are other Rebbeim there. There are tons of Rabbanim there. Every Talmud should go to Megalim Rabbo Imo. So why in the world does this Rebbe have to go to Golos? Let the Talmud, when he gets to Ir Miklat, he'll find a new Rebbe. Says the Nemuki Yosef, Oisoi Shirogol Imo Odif Tfei. The Rebbe that the Talmud is used to, is accustomed to learning by, is better. Because a person is not able to learn from everybody. A person connects to a Rebbe, a person connects to a certain figure, a certain individual, and that's the person he's besugol, he's comfortable, he's able to really learn from. And he's not able to learn from everyone in the world. Just because the person's a tremendous Talmud Chacham, just because the person's a tremendous tzaddik, doesn't mean that he speaks to me, doesn't mean that he's my Rebbe. So therefore, the halacha is Talmud Shegala Megalim Rabbo, his Rabbo specifically, Imo, not good enough to have anyone there. And that's based, the Rambam The Rambam, based on this Gemara, says in Hilchos Ritzeach, V'chaye ba'alei hachachma muvaksheha, that the lives of people who beseech wisdom, B'loi Talmud Torah Kimisa Chashuvin. If they don't have Talmud Torah, specifically Medaik the Lashon Talmud Torah, it doesn't mean learning Torah, but they don't have Talmud Torah, they don't have learning Torah from a Rebbe, or Kimisa Chashuvin. Now, the Gemara does tell us, Gemara in Shabbos and Daf Samach Gimel, that a Kodesh Baruch Hu is mechavev limud bechavrusa. When somebody learns with his chavrusa, Kodesh Baruch Hu is very happy with that. Kodesh Baruch Hu ohavan, quotes a pasuk. However, Rashi on the spot points out the following Meridika Yisai. Rashi on the spot of Shabbos Daf Samach Gimel and Aleph tells us the reason that Kodesh Baruch Hu is so happy when people learn b'chavrusa, ein lanu rav l'lamdeinu. Since they don't have a Rebbe, so you don't have a Rebbe, so go to your chavrusa. You don't have a Rebbe, so it's important to have a chavrusa. And that's what we started out with, the lashon of the Rambam and his Pesach Mishnayos, that if you don't have a person that's able to be a Rebbe, so guess what? Make your chavrusa into your Rebbe. Because things are going to become clear, things are going to be more obvious, things are going to be more, you're able to retain them better when you learn from and with somebody else. So that's the side, one reason, one major fundamental principle in acquiring Torah, make sure you have a Rebbe. The Rebbe will help clarity, the Rebbe will help retention. The Meiri points out another reason why it's so important, and with this we will end, why it's so important to have a Rebbe to teach you Torah. Why it's so important that to acquire Torah, it has to be specifically through the mechanism of a Rebbe. Says the Meiri in Shabbos over there, Kol she'efsher lo la'adam lilmod mizu lasal. Anything somebody can learn from somebody else, Yilmoy. Why? Shehakabbalah ikar hachachma b'shorsha. Kabbalah. What does that mean? So Matisyahu Solomon is Mazbir explains this Meiri that you want to acquire Torah, you have to have an appreciation and understanding that Torah doesn't start with me. I'm not the generator. I'm not the one that was mechadish Torah, but I'm part of a long history. A Mesiras HaTorah that goes all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu. That it's necessary, it's important, it's very fundamental to realize, recognize, and understand that when it comes to Torah, you want to acquire Torah, you want to understand Torah, you want it to last, recognize where you fit in the chain. That it's not coming from me, but I'm mevatel das, I'm completely subjugating my own knowledge and desires. I am completely subservient to the fact that I am just another link in that chain. But guess what? That chain links me all the way back to the source of it all. It links me all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu and Har Sinai and Kabbalah HaTorah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is another reason why Talmud is so fundamental and so important. And why the number one Kinyan when it comes to Torah. First is Talmud, because you have to have a Rebbe for clarity and retention. And second is to recognize and understand that Torah doesn't start with me. I wasn't the Mechadish of Torah, but it comes from a long history and a long Messiah. Ad Kan for today.